Costa Rica. I've enjoyed the waterfalls and the wildlife. I even got to kiss a butterfly and see a live volcano, and it's been extra special. First class hospitality. Thank you to Mr. Vargas, Mr. Carrazzo, Marianella, Laura, Sharon for inviting me. I'm having the best time of my life. And for a mother who has spent most of their life cleaning and cooking, it is much appreciated when I don't have to clean up the mess and someone feeds me. And it's been such a joy to explore your country. On Friday, I had the privilege of meeting with the leaders of the engineering department at the University of Costa Rica. And we mapped out a plan on how to bring more young women into the engineering program. And tomorrow is International Women's Day. So I want to encourage all of us to do our part in letting all the young girls in our lives and the old girls that we can do amazing things when we get an education. It is true that I am the mother of 11 biological children, and I had them all with just one husband. Isn't that a miracle? I had 2 boys and 9 girls, but I only planted 2, so there's 9 surprises up there. I haven't ever told them who the surprises are. I also am a grandmother of 11 grandchildren, and to be honest with you, all the things I've done with my life, truly this has been the most rewarding and the most difficult. And you'll have to pray for me because I'm on my 11th teenager. She's a good girl. But all of my children back in the United States send their love. I invested 20 years staying at home with them, made sure that they were educated and raised well and trained up in the gifts that God had put in their heart. And there's nothing that beats really being a mother. But I had a PowerPoint prepared, a very fancy one. And I decided this morning, we don't need many more fancy PowerPoints. We don't need to be told what to do. This is supposed to be a master lecture. But honestly, I'm not a master, and this is not a lecture. We have plenty of those. I just wanted to tell you that, I'm just an ordinary person. 10 years ago, I was just an uneducated housewife. But somehow, I stumbled onto luck, divine intervention, and I now live an extraordinary life. Prior to this life, it was not much of a fairy tale. I was poor and discouraged, depressed, and was on my deathbed, and life can come at you and beat you up. But the main message that came to my heart this morning was, you're not too old, and it's not too late. And that the dreams that are in your heart never have an expiration date. And so I've kind of changed it up just a bit. I hope you don't mind. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about my past and where I came from. I grew up in a very small village, we call it a town, of about 250 people. My dad was a farmer and a rancher, so I was spending most of my time with cattle and horses and pigs and sheep and chicken. And I think that one of the great things is I got my hands dirty a lot. I learned to clean up after the cattle, I learned to clean up after the horses. And I think that's good because it produces such grit and determination in me. The main things I were taught was keep your promises, finish what you start, and with grit and determination, anything is possible. The main thing I was taught was faith plus hard work equals success. These principles have served me very well my whole life. And by the way, before I go any further, I want to welcome all the nations of the world that are present for this conference. I know many of you have overcome a lot of obstacles probably in your life to get where you are today and to come to this conference, and welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Well, when I was 18 years old, I decided I would get my education. I went to the university close by my house, about a couple hours away. But while I was there, I obtained my pilot's license, which I've been a pilot for almost 40 years now. And that's my engineering background. But I fell in love, I got married, had a child, and dropped out of school. And I always promised myself, when my baby's 5, I would go back to school. But then there were more babies and more babies and more babies. Maybe I didn't know what caused it or something. I'm not too sure. But I was a slow learner. But the children kept coming. And finally, after I had about 10 children, there was something in my heart, maybe something that you feel like, is this all there is to life? Am I just going to be raising children and cooking and cleaning and folding underwear? Is this all I'm going to do with my life? And I remember thinking, if there's something else I'm supposed to do, I sure would like to do it. And when I was 40 years old, I received a message in my heart in the middle of the night, an unusual one. And the message was, start an Olympic gymnastics program. Influence young girls. And I'm thinking, I've never done gymnastics. I've never coached gymnastics. And I have 10 children and I don't have any money. But the first step to a dream that's inside of you is to say yes. And the second step is to take the first step. Even when you're not qualified, even when you feel you doubt yourself. And so the only step I had to take was to research how much it would cost. And I found out in the year 2000, when I started this, it would cost about $250,000 to do it right. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, if this is the plan for my life, the answer is yes. I will do it, but I need some help. Well, I got a phone call about 4 days later from a man in Chicago. His name was Glenn. Glenn said to me, you don't know me, but about a year ago, you helped my son through a crisis. He's a different person. We changed his name from Doug to New Doug. Now, his mother and I would like to help you maybe influence other children and help other kids start a new life. He said, what you don't know is I am Vice President of United Airlines. And he said, we would like to send you a check, so maybe you could help other children. What do you think? I said, that will be fine. He was going to say no to money. And so I was thinking the check would be like maybe $1,000, something like that. And for me, as a kind of a poor housewife, it was difficult to even imagine seeing a $100 bill on a table. But the check came, and the check was for $325,000 US dollars. Wow, what a miracle. And so the gymnastics place was open 10 days from the day I said yes, and it's still going today. We have trained thousands of state, national, and world champions over the years, but the most important thing is every day we have character training, moral training, where we teach these young girls, speak up for yourself, get your education, become a great citizen, become a senator, become a banker, become a lawyer, become an engineer. You can do anything with your life. And it's been the most rewarding thing, not just to produce gold medalists and champions, but to produce champions in life. I currently am training about 500 gymnasts, and it's just been a kind of a success from the beginning. I really don't know how, but somehow Olympic coaches came on board to help me, and it's just been really the ride of my life. But about 10 years into coaching gymnastics, I began having the same feeling. I was 50. I'm 60 now. I was 50 years old, and I was thinking, is this all there is to life? Just raising kids and coaching gymnastics and smelling the chalk every day in the gymnastics place? Is this it? There was something inside of me that said, I want to make an impact. I want my life to matter. And I began every day when I was going on my morning jog, just to pray a prayer, like I didn't know where to start. And that's why I think faith is important. You don't have to have the same faith I do. You might have faith in your family or faith in inspirational videos, but somehow we have to believe in something bigger than ourselves because we run into obstacles in our life. And every day for several months I would say, this is all there is. Is there something I'm supposed to do? Is there something more? And one day, when I was jogging around the corner coming home on a snowy day, I I felt a message come in my heart. And the message was, go to Harvard University and get your master's degree. Well, no one in my family had even graduated from university, ever. And the first thing I'm thinking is, I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. I still have 7 kids at home. I don't come from a prestigious background. And on top of that, Harvard, which is in Boston, is a 5,000-kilometer round trip. This is before online. And the only thing I need to do is what I told you before. Don't doubt yourself. Say yes and make the first step. So I flew there. I had to borrow points from a friend. I only had enough money to spend the night in a hotel room one night in Boston, so I had to sleep on the subway the first night. I put my suitcase on the ground, used it for a pillow, put a little hoodie over my head, and hoped for the best. The next day I got on the subway, and I went to a meeting with the dean of the school. And I thought she might have a pity party for me and feel sorry for me and maybe let me do it somehow online. I told her, I don't have any money, I've got all these children. She didn't care, she had no sympathy. She put her finger in my face and she said, you will fly here every week. You will find a way because this will change your life. And she shocked me with her belief. She believed in me more than I believed in myself. I went back home, flew back home, and I decided I would have to ask for help. I hate to ask for help. I was raised not to ask for help. But I went to a businessman, and I told him that I had perfect scores when I finished my bachelor's degree. I had to finish my bachelor's quickly before I went to Harvard. And I told him what I wanted. And I decided, in baseball they say, swing for the fence. So I decided I'm going to ask for the money, I'm going to ask for the tuition, I'm going to ask for the books, I'm going to ask for my airfare, and I'm going to ask for a hotel. I'm going to ask for it all. And the first person I asked said yes. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm shaking the whole time I'm asking. I said, how am I going to do that? He said, you're going to get a credit card, and you're going to charge everything every month, and then you're going to send me the bill. And this man kept his promises to me for 3.5 years. And I flew there every single week. I would come into the classroom with my suitcase behind me because I had to put all my classes on the same day. I had to fly to Boston, arrive about 1:30 in the afternoon, do all my classes, and fly back home the next morning because I still had 7 kids at home and I was still working a full-time job. But when I went to the classroom, I was in the back, the very back. The classes weren't very big, but I was embarrassed of who I was. Then each person, the first day of class, would introduce themselves. One would say, I have my degree in aerospace engineering, a PhD from MIT. Or, I am the son of the ambassador from Colombia. Or, I mean, every single person was over the top, way above my level. And then they would get to me in the back, and I would say only what I could say. I'm a gymnastics coach from Oklahoma City, and I'm a mother of 11 children. You know, there was a few snickers in the room, of course. But I looked around the room and I decided I can't control my intelligence. I can't control my talent. I can't control my background. The only thing I can control is my work ethic. And I decided right then and there I would outwork everyone in the classroom. I graduated from Harvard a few years later in May of 2016 with perfect scores. My master's thesis on U.S. space policy was chosen as a top 10 thesis for all of Harvard, and even was approached by a company in New York City to publish my thesis into a book, which came out on Amazon not too long ago. It was the #1 release in aeronautical engineering. And I just want to say that no matter how much you doubt yourself, no matter what your background is, everything is possible. And God doesn't run out of miracles. God doesn't run out of miracles. You have a great future for your life. So from Harvard, then I began to work at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. What an incredible experience. I didn't even know NASA had headquarters in Washington, D.C. I just thought there was Houston and Kennedy. But there is the brains of the operation in Washington, D.C. And I had the privilege of working in the International Relations Department.
And what I loved about it was every week our international partners would come in. European Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency, Russian Space Agency, all the different space agencies. I got to meet the head of this French Space Agency, German Space Agency. What an honor to interact with these people. But what I noticed while I was there were a lot of emerging nations that wanted help, and NASA really just didn't have time for them. And I began to get invitations all over the world. Please come help us. Croatia, Colombia, Philippines, many, many different countries. And I wasn't allowed to because, you're working in a government position and you do what you're told to do. So I left NASA after a while, and I decided to go help these countries grow their space agencies, grow their country, help. Everywhere I go talk to young girls and young women. I don't want to just a stage and an audience with the leaders. I want to go out where the real people are, people that were like me, who grew up in a disadvantaged situation, who wanted to do more with their life. And it's been an amazing journey. I have been all throughout Africa, every continent of the world except Antarctica, being able to spread influence. Who would have thought somebody like me, whose life was not always a fairy tale, who had hit bottom literally in every area of my life, could have such an extraordinary opportunity? And this opportunity is not just for me. It's for every single person that's listening to me, that's under the sound of my voice right now. You can change your life at any moment if you want to. And I came here to tell you that. After traveling a lot and influencing people all over the world and having these great... I'm just pinching myself all the time, remembering where I came from. Most recently, in August of last year, I had that same overwhelming feeling again at 60 years old. Some friends of mine were in trouble in Afghanistan. It was an overwhelming feeling I couldn't shake. It was the 1st of August. This is before the collapse of Afghanistan, before we knew there would be problems. But there were 5 girls that were very dear to me and very close friends that were Afghan girls. They were from the Afghan girls robotics team. The captain and the 4 girls I had met at a space conference in Washington, D.C. I'm part of a group called Explore Mars. We map out the plan for NASA to go to Mars with international partners. And Elon Musk of SpaceX had helped us fly these 5 girls from Afghanistan to come to the conference, the space conference in Washington, D.C. I wanted them to have the chance to brush shoulders with astronauts, with engineers, so that they could dream of having a greater life. These girls were high school girls that were engineers whose fathers had even been killed for them going to high school. They're the most amazing girls I'd ever met. And these are the girls, when I woke up August of last year, that I had just a heaviness for, that something was extremely wrong. I got in touch with them. I got in touch with their mentor and their leader, and we began to go to work to get these girls evacuated from Afghanistan. And for 2 weeks, it was one obstacle after another. Hot lead, we're going to get them out, door would close. This went on over and over again. We really got no help from anyone. We just had to, every single day, 24 hours a day, try to find a way. How would you feel if you got a message to evacuate somebody from halfway around the world? I mean, where do you start? It's just difficult. Again, you start with that first step, and somehow it just gets a life of its own. And after 2 weeks of hard work and discouragement and tears and no sleep, those girls and many others were evacuated from Afghanistan. Do you remember the day you saw the images of people hanging from the big airplane at the airport? They got out right about that time. It was an absolute miracle. The girls that I know, that I'm great friends with, are now in Ireland, going to school there, and I've had a chance to travel there and visit them and spend some time with them. But the story of the girls' evacuation went out I got an interview from NBC. They had seen the story on my Facebook. And NBC printed the story. And when the story went viral, I began to receive threatening phone calls. I received phone calls from New York. I received phone calls from out of the country that said, close your mouth, don't talk about it, don't say another word, cancel every interview. I had interviews with CNN, BBC, every possible news outlet you can imagine that had contacted me that wanted to know more about this story. So I'm thinking, what should I do? Because I knew that if I continued to talk, not only would my life be under threat, but so would my children. And it was a tough decision. And so in the middle of August, I sat up all night last year. And I sat up all night, and I needed to know, what am I supposed to do? Do I speak up, or do I remain silent? And about 5 a.m., I knew. I knew that this is what the Taliban wants. This is what a lot of governments want. This is what a lot of people want. They want the women to be quiet. And I said, I don't care the price I have to pay. I'm going to speak up. And I went ahead and took every single interview, probably 4 or 5 or 6 every day, back to back to back, days on end. And I began to speak up. And the reason I did it was 2 reasons. Reason number 1 was because I wanted other people in Afghanistan to know who they could contact to get out. And number 2, I knew there would be a lot of resources that would come my way that would give us the ability to do that. It's not just money. You have to have ambassadors, you have to have special forces people, you have to have all kinds of help. And it worked. And I wanted to read you, the reason I brought my phone up here is I wanted to read you one of the first messages I received. I am sending this message on behalf of the Afghan women judges. We have seen your hard work towards Afghan robotic girls. It has made us very happy. We thought there might be a chance for us also, because we are hiding. We have left our homes after the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. They look at us as the enemy. We are fired from our jobs. We are hopeless. We have asked so many organizations, but there is no progress and no one will help us. We know you have a busy schedule, but we hope you would do something. And I did the same thing that I did before. I said, yes, I will help you. Send me a list of these 8 or 10 women judges that are in trouble, their emails, and let's get started. I got a list of 240 Afghan women judges. Every single one of them had a husband, and they all had children. And I didn't know where to start. I'll be honest with you, because I'm going to go ahead and share just a little bit about my faith. I didn't know where to start except on my knees. How do you evacuate 2,000 plus people from a country where everything is collapsing? The reason they were in such danger, I checked with my friends in Washington, D.C. They said they're the first to be killed. They imprisoned so many Taliban over the years, and when the Taliban took over, all the prisoners are released, and they're chasing the women judges and killing their husbands. Many are being blinded, many are being murdered, and yes, you need to help get these women out. So the miracles began. I got a call from NASA General Counsel, attorneys. How can we help you? We heard that you're doing some things. I said, you can help. Here's what we need to do. They said, no problem. Next thing I know, I'm talking, Yale Law School, which is one of the top law schools in the United States, calls and said, how can we help? And they began to compile all the information, everything that we need to do. Suddenly, special forces guys from the U.S. military began to contact me, ambassadors. We had airplanes. We had everything we needed to get these women out. And I want to say that it took about 6 or 8 weeks to get everyone, but we didn't lose one. And the only thing I told God was, I want to get out their husbands and all the children. Let's not break up the family. And 100% of the women are out, safe, and in countries. I've been to visit them in Greece. Some are in Spain. Some are in Germany. But, it just proves that nothing's impossible when we work together as a team. My life has never been a one-man show. Everything I've ever done, it's required people to help me. And so I just want to also always say thank you to all the people who've been such a great part of my life. The last people that I tried to get out of Afghanistan were Americans. Our U.S. government had abandoned all the Americans. All the Americans that were there that had contacted me had passports just like me, had homes in the United States just like me. And this was in November, first part of November, when they began to reach out for help. So I told my children, I'm going to make out my will. I'm going to fly to the Middle East. And just know if I die, I die doing what I loved. And they were okay with it. I had so many death threats up to this point that I had to leave my house. with my daughter and move into other homes, move around a lot. I had to travel with an armed man. I had to reach out to my friends from the FBI and in counterterrorism, and I wasn't aware how fast things can flip upside down for a person who really tries to do something. But you know what? Anytime you try to do something great in your life, you'll always be controversial. You'll always have criticism. You'll always have people tell you can't do it. You'll always have obstacles. But I've learned that it's just a distraction. And I just have learned just to go forward anyway and do exactly what's in my heart. Because you know what? At the end of my life, it's not about what I get. It's not about my possessions. It's not about my money. It's not about my awards. It's not about any letters behind my name. It's about what we give back. That's what life is really all about. So I went to the Middle East for several weeks. The Special Forces guys and I, who'd worked in Afghanistan most of their adult life, could make no progress. We'd get everything set up, and the border would close to Tajikistan. We'd get another place set up, and Uzbekistan would close. We'd try to go Pakistan. Everything quit working. There was no money. There was no funding. Finally, in mid-December, while we were there, the Special Forces guy says, Allyson, we're on the next flight out. We're going home. There's no money. This is not working. The timing is off. And so they peeled off. And I told them, I'm not leaving. I'm going to be the last American over here. I'm going to stand for these people because that's what I would want people to do for me. We're going to get these people home before Christmas. And they left. So there I was by myself, a little discouraged, a little depressed, wondering if I'd made a mistake. Is this the right thing? And of course, my children hadn't seen me much. It's a week till Christmas. And no presents, nothing prepared for Christmas. And you know what? Out of the blue, I received a phone call from a man. He owned an aviation company. And he said, Allyson, I saw your Facebook post. I'm going to give you all the money and all the planes you need to get these Americans home by Christmas. I called the Special Forces guys. Will you come back? They're like, yeah, we'll come back. And through this partnership, those our U.S. military guys, they were retired, flew into Kabul, gathered up all the Americans that were remaining, put them on a flight, and flew them to New York City. I told the guys, I'm going home. I need to get Christmas ready. So I went home, and I got Christmas ready, and I know that they're in New York City, and I know the guy who's funded it all is in New York City taking care of the whole operation and getting everyone where they need to be. And I'm going out my front door to go on a jog in mid-December. And I'm texting the man who helped me. Rick, thank you so much. There's no words for what you've done. Thank you so much. It's amazing that you were the game changer. And then by accident on my iPhone, I shared my location. I said, Rick, I am so sorry. That's a little bit creepy. I was going out for a run, and I accidentally shared my location with you. There was silence. He came back with a text message that said, you live on this street in this town? I said, yes. He said, I live 1 kilometer from you. Isn't that amazing? All the answers I ever wanted for this operation were in my backyard. So I just want to share the last thing with you. There was a nurse who kept track of patients. What were their dying regrets? For 13 years, she kept track of this, and she wrote a book. And I kind of thought that the dying regret would be I didn't spend enough time with friends and family. But instead, it was this. I didn't do the dreams that were in my heart because of other people's opinions. And I just want to say, no matter what's in your heart, no matter what you want to do with your life, remember that your dreams do not expire. I want you to put your head on your pillow every night, and also when you take your last breath, and say, I did everything that was in my heart, and I have no regrets. And I just want to leave this with you. Working with the wonderful people at NASA and the people in the space industry, the greatest thing they ever taught me was that failure is not an option. Thank you so much for your time, and it's such a pleasure to be here.